What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Year Pass bringing you the roundup from the weekend. Great games. I thought, particularly, again, got the prediction wrong, particularly the Liverpool City game. Lived up to be, had a bit of spark about it, a bit more than usual, even though it was 2-all. But the point that I've been thinking about this, man, and I just can't get past Salah being maybe the best winger in the world at the moment. That winger, number nine, number seven winger in the world at the moment. It was a brilliant game, but his goal just stood out for me in his pass. Because if you watch the pass, he tricked everyone. He tricked the fucking viewers. The way his body was pulled out to the left, and he just put a ball into the right for Mane was beautiful. It was a great game overall, though. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was an absolutely ripper of a game. When I saw that goal that he scored, my first thought was Messi. Like I thought only Messi could score that
Oh
goal.
yeah,
But Salah is
absolutely.
it was a brilliant goal for him to score. And yeah, the awareness on those passes, he saved Liverpool a point there. I felt generally Man City outplayed Liverpool. I felt City,
Mm,
if there was to be a winner, I felt City did deserve it. I think they played better for longer, particularly in the first half, but they didn't
mm,
really get their rewards for that. Some really good high quality football. De Bruyne wasn't at his best, but he made a difference. Foden was absolutely electric as well. And some talking points as well with Milner. Milner probably should have got that second yellow, but then in a way had involvement in Liverpool's second goal, the Salah goal, just from helping to work the ball up the flank. But they seem to have earmarked him as sort of the backup for Trent, but at the same time, he's not quite looking there against the top teams. Um,
mm,
I don't know if age is catching up with him or he just had a bad game, but it's
mm.
interesting.
I think Milner. I think, as a side note, Milner's there. You know, the professionalism he brings to the game. The kind of it's a similar like a Ronaldo effect. I guess it's not as much stardom, but it's kind of he's not eating dessert for lunch the way the other players. I think that's the kind of effect that he brings to the team. And he could probably play for another 1 or 2 more years, man, at Liverpool. I mean,
Mhm.
I think he'd be fine, kind of playing 20, 25 games a year, transitioning to coaching role. But anyway, Liverpool.
But do you think if he plays 20, 25 games, he can play these types of games? I mean,
I
playing a
think he can.
lower
I think
team
he's
versus a top team.
I think he famously is like the most boring man of football. Drinks tea, doesn't go out. He apparently doesn't do team nights out. So he's back by 8 o'clock. That kind of thing. He's just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, I think the perspective. I think that the point um, that I'm trying to make is: do you think Liverpool will be happy with the draw? Or do you think Man City feels 2 points lost, or vice versa?
It's interesting because Liverpool, City, and Chelsea have all played each other. So if
Mm,
you look at it in that sense, City they lost to Messi and PSG midweek, but they took
mm,
4 points from trips to Stamford Bridge and Anfield. So
mm,
they'd be thrilled at that.
mm,
Liverpool have hosted both of those teams, and they haven't been able to win one of those games. So in the
mm.
sense that they would have loved to have beaten either Chelsea or Man City and didn't quite get that, they feel a little bit left let down. But
Yeah.
at the same time, they'll probably, if there was to be a loser in that game, was to be Liverpool. Salah had a couple of moments of magic, but generally Liverpool were outplayed. City really sort of setting the bar really high,
Yeah.
um, coming from that slightly slow start. Um,
Yeah.
it's an interesting way to look at it, but you feel that both teams are still moving in the right direction. Maybe it's a bit too early to
But
call these games Titanic, but Liverpool have to go to 88, have to go to Stamford Bridge in the second half of the
yeah.
season.
I mean, the game did actually feel a little bit Titanic in and of itself. There was something about I don't know. I just felt when I watched it back as well. I was thinking there's a bit of that Arsenal United or United Chelsea kind of kick from the mid 2000s. I mean, that brings I guess that's bring the next point. That top spot's just rotating through. You're looking at the best of the rest: Everton, Brighton, Spurs, Brentford, fifth, six, seven, eight. The people we kind of thought would be in and amongst that West Ham, Arsenal, Wolves, Leicester, they're all just literally just below that. And then you have your who's who below. And it's interesting, man. I think. Do you think the season's going to go one up, one down? You think United will ever come to the top again for a couple of games? I think this is it's maybe the most open season we've had in a while.
Oh, definitely. And you look at, everyone's had a massive crack at Tottenham because they have not been too convincing, but they're eighth on the table. A lot of
Yeah,
people say good things about West Ham, but they're ninth. Arsenal been up and down. They're mid-table. There are teams there that may not be there at the end of the season, but when you look at the fact that you played 7 games and there's literally how much is that? There's about 2 points between eighth and or 4 points between eighth and first,
Four, yeah, yeah,
or 2 points between eighth and third. So there's
yeah,
this huge logjam. Teams aren't really breaking away yet. We
yeah,
saw that last season where it was a bit like this at the beginning, and then teams in the second half of the season started going on runs, particularly City. After about this sort of mark, they had 12 points from their first 8 games, City, and then they went on this massive run of 20 odd games
yeah. But
unbeaten.
there was a certain chaos to the season. There's not much chaos this season in the sense you're not getting these insane results. I just think the league is just getting harder. I think every team can beat any team. I mean, it's been that like that for a few years, but I just think it's
It's
closer
it's
than ever.
control chaos, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Last
bit more
season was
control.
genuinely chaotic.
No fans and peak VAR was just it was intense, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to bring up the point about Brentford as well. So 7 points, 12 games. Naturally, with law of averages, you think they plateau off. So if they need 42 points to stay up, that's a mythical mark. So they've done a quarter of that, just over a quarter of that. I mean, do you think they peter off, man? Because they've been playing well. I mean, they go beat West Ham in the last minute.
Yeah, winning it up to
Listen,
punt in
there's
the
a
last minute
spirit.
was
There's a
and they
spirit about
played.
them. You said sorry before you go on. You said, "Oh, the best time to play, the worst time to play is at the start of the season." We're 7 games in, man. We're third, fourth quarter. Sorry, we're fifth of the season. Is it still the start of the season? Yeah, you maybe it is. I've
I
talked
think now
myself
I
into.
think now we finished with the start of the season with the international break coming up.
Yeah. Okay. Fair
The
enough.
the foreplay kind of been done. Like it's
Yeah.
we're at that point now where um teams will have that time off to have a bit of a break, and will start getting a bit more monotonous, and all of these teams with midweek games will have midweek games every week and that sort of thing.
Mm.
Um, the thing about Brentford is they actually outplayed West Ham in the first half. They genuinely should have
Mm.
been up by more. West Ham got a good goal back. They were building pressure in the second half, but then Brentford just pulled the win out of nowhere, frankly.
Mm.
Incredible result. And I think the thing for me that I like about them is they've only lost 1 game all season. They are a
Mm.
hard team to beat. Generally, when teams get promoted, where they struggle the most is the quality up front. There's not a lot of difference between a championship centre back and a and a league Premier League centre back, but there's a
Mm.
lot of difference between a championship striker and a Premier League striker, and they're not deterred by that. Their goals for they've got 10 goals. So Aston Villa have got 10 goals. Most of the team they got more goals than pretty much all the teams um,
You've conceded less
below them.
than.
It's not an odd number of goals to score. It's if you score 2 goals a game, you're going to be there or thereabouts for the title. They're about 1.5, so the position is realistic relative to that.
Mm.
I think they're doing a great job. I do think they'll plateau a bit, but I wouldn't expect them to, suddenly find themselves in a relegation battle. And it's that ability to perhaps draw games that they might lose. I think that's what's going to save them. I think sort of 10 to sort of 13 spots kind of where they'll end up. Maybe slightly lower than that, but I don't see them looking over their shoulder at relegation.
Yeah, we wanted to do a video on Brentford, and we just thought there were many more videos that would have done it much better than us. I think, to be fair, it would have been nice to talk about it, but we wouldn't have done it justice. But I think there's something to be said in this case. Perhaps the way they streamlined the club, like they took away the academy, and they've made the way they make decisions is just purely based on the reserves. No, yeah, the reserves and the first team. There's very few decisions being made. So when you have few decisions to make, I think better decisions can be made. I think the players perhaps feel that trickle down effect of, oh shit, this club's making good decisions. They sell players, but we still kind of come good out of it. So it's just something I think about when I think about Brentford. I think everyone has this kind of positive feeling around Brentford the way we do around Leeds as well. And I think that
Yeah.
surrounds around Marco Bielsa himself. But I think Brentford as a club has that Leicester kind of feel. Good decisions are being made most of the time. So that's Brentford. Um, I You'd love to see it, man. Norwich is off the mark. They've got their point.
They drew
Uh,
against the team second from the bottom, so well done to Norwich. Yeah.
yeah, look, unfortunately, that was always going to be the most boring game um, next to Bolton Wanderers versus maybe West Bromwich Albion. But they're off the mark. Something I wanted to ask about, actually, it's a bit left field. I didn't bring it up with you a few days ago, but do you think Newcastle's kind of time's up? They're going back down for a couple of years as they always do, every 5 years.
It's interesting because every time I watch Newcastle play, I expect them to lose. I'm sort of surprised when they don't. When they have a moment, you're like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
There seems to be so much negativity around the club, and there's these few sort of moments of positivity. Um, they're finding themselves. I didn't really see it until you just pointed it out just then. They've gone below Burnley. Um,
Mm.
they conceded 16 goals, which is an awful number of goals to concede, sorry, more than two a game. They I've got issues with their defense and their goalkeeper. The goalkeeper doesn't quite seem to be of Premier League standard, making sort of mistakes that you can't make at this level, particularly with a team facing relegation. And they're in the amount of games they're losing as well. When you're losing more games than you're drawing, I think that there's a bit of a problem there. Um,
Yeah.
I think that their time could be up. We kind of expected it last season, and then they just went on this incredible run in the last few games. But they
Yeah.
might find themselves too far behind to do something like that this year.
I mean, speaking of drawing more games than you win, United, the same points as City. Are they equal to Everton? Yeah, they're equal to Everton. I mean, they're 2 points up top. It's no drama. Just quickly before we finish up here, let's talk about a couple of problems we think that's wrong with United. Because I can't quite put my finger on it. Um, should he have started Ronaldo? I think that's a different question. What do you think is going wrong right now? Do you think it's a slump? It's just teams have slumps. They're having their slump early. Do you think it's there's something kind of systemically wrong tactically? Because I think the club has really prospered under Oli to a positive effect. I just think the football isn't quite kicked on in a very consistent way. They have they're still unbeaten away for about 3 years, I think it is. So there is something
Feels like
positives
it.
that come out of it. Yeah, it feels like how long it's been. But yeah, what do you think is wrong?
I think there's a few things. I think that with all the players that they've come in, they brought in Sancho and Ronaldo and Cavani and Martial are still around. Lingard's still around. Mata's still around. So that hierarchy, they've got about 10 players playing for 4 spots in the team,
Mm,
which is a difficult problem to deal with if you're trying to sort of keep everybody happy. If you
mm,
look at teams like Liverpool's probably a good example, they tend to play the same players a lot.
mm.
There's not that much. Klopp's doing a little bit more this year, but in the past, you'd see a lot of players playing 80 to 85% of the game time.
Mm.
United are
You
not
can you can
really
you can
doing
name
that.
this you can name the starting 11 of the 20 greatest sides from AC Milan 94 all the way up to
Yeah,
Madrid in
I
that
I
Champions League
I
era.
would
Yeah.
be better off. I'd more like naming United team 20 years ago as the starting lineup, yeah, than
Exactly.
than
Yeah.
than I would picking
That's a
say the
fair
team
point.
that played Everton. So there's
Yeah.
that, and that might sort itself out a bit over time when people start playing better and the hierarchy's established. With the
Mm,
fact that there were question marks over Mata, question marks over Cavani, Martial, Lingard, and then you brought in two other attackers. Rashford's not played a lot this season because he's injured. Pogba's found a new position on the pitch. There's question marks over that synergy. Even Mason Greenwood's not playing in his best position. The other thing that I worry about when I watch United, I tried mentioning this a couple of times last year. I didn't do it very well. United seem to rely on these individual moments from these individual players to get them over the line. So when Paul
mm,
Pogba was playing well, United were nicking games by a goal. When he wasn't, they were drawing games. And they're relying a bit too much on these moments of inspiration as opposed to formations and synergy and tactics. And I think that when you've got ways of playing and that you understand, things become a lot easier. Like you could almost, when United again 20 years ago with David Beckham, there was almost a set piece for Roy Keane to knock the ball to Beckham on the wing. He'd flash it across the goal, and Colin York would knock it in. It was almost a set piece. It was done so regularly, but you don't see that with United now. It's almost like you pass the ball to a player and he's figuring out how do I score, and the other players aren't really moving for him.
yeah.
You're
I,
relying
I
on those
I I
individual
think I
moments.
think I brought that up and I called it Man City have their goal, Liverpool have their goal. Um, what is what is United's goal? I don't think I think there's something there with the kind of one touch. There was a little bit of that one touch play around the box, and then there was a bit of that Bruno magic. But yeah, no, you're right. I think that's a fair point. United kind
The
of
United goal
hope
seems to
and
be the transition goal. If you look at Ronaldo's goal against Newcastle, the second one, or if you look at
oh yes,
Mason
yes,
Greenwood's goal with Pogba played that beautiful pass against Leeds, that's sort of
mm,
United's goal, but you can't do that against the low block. I think
yeah,
United saw playing players in and them running onto it. Teams are just setting up low blocks to blunt that. United don't have other options at the moment. And I think
yeah,
United have got by in the past by playing Fred and McTominay. I think they're being caught out now. I don't think that they sort of played them because it stabled the club defensively, even though they struggle in an attacking sense. But that defensive side is falling down. Fred was at fault for that goal on the weekend. And
Oh yeah,
McTominay started the season really well. He's not come back from the surgery at the same level. And he was quite exposed against Villarreal as well as a single pivot.
yeah.
So,
I remember really well when they bought Michael Carrick.
mm,
They kind of faulted him for being a sideways passer, the way Michael Ballack was for most of his Chelsea career. And the moment, and how did he flourish? I think he flourished under Paul Scholes for 5 years with Paul Scholes, I think. I think McTominay is a very good player. I think he is. I don't think he's a very talented player. I think he's a good player. He can be, a
he's a shit player, but
world-class
plays well.
trier,
Yeah.
a world-class trier, And I just think
He's an epitome of that Fletcher Park Ji Sung type player. That's the type of player that
Gennaro
is.
Gattuso, yeah, just squeeze it all out. But I think I don't want to say it's time's up for Fred. I just think how many mistakes can you make, man? De Gea is forgivable because he won Player of the Year 4 years in a row. What's Fred? I mean, no disrespect, man. He's a good player. He plays for Brazil. United's just not the place for him, and he's been at direct fault for so many goals. And it's not even angry. I don't think big fans get angry anymore. I just think it's just Fred.
To get knocked aside by Demarai Gray, although Demarai Gray is not a big man.
No,
He's
very,
strong,
very
but
slight.
yeah, he's very slight.
Yeah.
To create that opportunity, and then the Southampton as well. His passing's not there. His positioning's not there. He seems to be scrambling a lot just to sort of fit in.
Yeah.
That space between, I said it a few times this season, between the two centre backs, there's the full backs and the centre backs, and then the midfielders. That square is very vulnerable for United.
Yeah.
Particularly with Maguire out, Varane's a good player, but he's new, so they're all sort of getting used to each other a bit. And Fred and McTominay getting exposed, and I was thrilled when Ronaldo was signed, but I kept saying he's not the number 6 that we need, and we kind of just need just someone to just plonk there. If United could just go and get someone like Basuma or someone like that from Brighton, it'd be a really good signing. Calvin Phillips would be another one that would make a lot of difference. I don't think he'll come from Leeds. I think the last fella to come over was Rio Ferdinand. He was not a Leeds boy, but he was part of the clean out, and then obviously Alan Smith. So that was when Leeds were relegated. Sorry?
And Cantona before that.
Yeah, Cantona had a fallout. Ferdinand was being sold as part of a fire sale. Smith is the one that I would compare to Phillips because they're local boys. Because Cantona and Ferdinand were not local boys.
Okay.
But Leeds are flying high. I think it would take Leeds to sort of fall down the ladder a bit for United to be able to get Phillips. Yeah. Although
it would be nice.
I would absolutely love him as a 6.
I think he's a very good player. Yeah. I think we'll end it there, man. Nice little chat as always. International weekend. Nice to take a break, get the eyes off football for a while. Listen about Harry Kane and his exploits. I think that's all you hear about in International Week. Harry Kane and Jesse Lingard, how they're playing. So, couldn't give a shit. Anyway, any closing thoughts? I think, it's just a little one here. PSG lost to Rennes yesterday, 2-0. Man, you can take the men out of Tottenham, but you can't take the top. What is it? How does it go? You can take the man out of Spurs, but you can't take Spurs out of the man.
Pochettino out of Tottenham, but he can't take Tottenham out of Pochettino.
Yes.
I did want to quickly mention without getting too into it. Llorente scored for Leeds. He's one player that seems to make a big difference for that team. So not that he scored, but they kept a clean sheet with him around. They all walk a bit taller with him around. So if they can keep him on the pitch more, I think they'll kick on a bit this season.
Yeah, Llorente seems to be. Yeah, I wonder what makes these guys stay at Leeds, besides Baselam. I mean, I honestly don't see Calvin Phillips leaving the same way. Harry Kane will probably not leave, but it's a different kind of thing. I just think there's genuine love for the club, even if you're not a local boy. Rafinha, wouldn't be surprised if he stayed for long. Although that's probably the most likely to leave. But yeah, Llorente could stay for a while. Yeah. Lovely as always, Sham. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are the 5 Yard Pass podcast. My name is Sudi, and this is Sham. Keep football simple, and as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.